Welcome to the Reflections Cast, where we invite you to join us in an exploration of the teachings of our dad, Skip Ross. In each episode, we will listen to a talk or lecture from Skip, and then discuss what we might be able to apply to our daily lives and reflect on how they can inspire us to grow and change. We hope to continue his legacy and join our listeners in finding new insights and perspectives. Here's episode 18, Keep It Alive. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. We missed you guys. I hope you guys missed us. We took a little bit of a break for festivities and fun and some announcements that have come out recently. And we wanted to talk about that with you guys on the podcast. But before we get into that, I just wanted to review where we've been and where we're going. We have been talking about goal setting. That is what this year has been about. And today, again, is no different. We've got another incredible episode with Skip coming up that I can't wait to get into. And I also wanted to acknowledge we have been getting some feedback. We're going to be getting into that in some future episodes coming up. But today, I really wanted to take some time to talk about this very special announcement dealing with Circle A and the camp that has been going on for over 40 years, right, Melody?
That's right.
And there's a new evolution of that program that is going on now called the Circle A Summit. And we have just announced the dates and places and schedule and things that are coming up for Circle A Summit 2024. Guys, it is going to be awesome. If you like this podcast, if you like Skip's content, if you like this lifestyle and you want to meet some people who are like-minded and love this stuff and celebrate this stuff and want an environment where it builds tenfold when you're in this environment, this is the event that you are going to want to go to. So, Melody, can you tell us some of the details about this awesome time that we have coming up?
I would love to tell you so many details.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even say I'm Steve. And you are.
And I'm Melody. I think you guys probably know us by now, but that's all right.
I was just so excited to get into this announcement. Yes. Okay, Melody, please carry on.
It's a big announcement for sure. So I think many of you guys know that we ran our first Circle A Summit program this past summer. And we went to Hastings, Michigan at a campground called Camp Mishawana. And we were there for 5 days. We brought together families who wanted to be a part of a Circle A program. Some of these families were leadership team members and counselors and campers from Circle A years past, all different years. Some were volunteers, even from the early days. Some were current friends of our family. And some were people who didn't really know much at all about Circle A, but knew somebody who loved it and who invited them to come be a part of the summit. So it was an awesome crossroads of people who came together to both remember our past of Circle A and then just look to the future and think about what sort of program can we offer annually that will bring people together, that will give us the type of environment that we are looking for to help continue to grow as pioneers of the future, and specifically what can help our young people, because that's always been the focus of Circle A. And so the Family Camp Summit format was so fun. It was lots of traditional Circle A stuff that we still did, but also some new stuff. We have this year, we're going to be running both a youth program and an adult program. So the kids are going to have a little bit more separate experience this year, because we know that, there's something really special about that time, being around your peers and being with a leadership team that's really focusing on your growth and development as a teenager. So we're going to have a youth program and an adult program. We're also going to have family activities, and it's going to be amazing. So we're going to be back at the same location again because it was just so awesome last year. So beautiful, perfectly fit our needs. So we're going to be back there again, June 1st through the 5th. The registration fee is $300 per person, and that's covering your entire stay at camp, all your meals, your lodging, everything you need to take part in all of the activities. We do have some amazing activities that this campground offers. Lots of lake activities, canoeing. They've got a big blob that the kids really enjoyed last year. They've got a zip line, they've got a slip and slide, they've got a ropes course, all kinds of sport activities. And the camp favorite last year was definitely Gaga Ball. So we will be bringing that back next year because it was everyone's favorite activity. So it's going to be awesome. We would love for you to be there. Whether you have youth or not, you are welcome to be a part of the summit. There is something for everybody at the summit. And if you do have youth, if you do have kids between the ages of 8 and 18, man, I would get them to this Circle A Summit. It's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. And what I love about this location is like, not only is it beautiful and it has all of these like cool camp activity equipment and everything like that, but it also has really cool housing options, not just, the cabins that they have, but if you have like an RV or you like to camp and you have tents, you can bring those up too. And there's facilities for that. So
we had some families do that last year and it was really awesome.
Yeah. So it's this awesome merging of everything that we love about camp, but also things that families just want to do on the summer. And then do it in this incredible environment. So guys, if you want more information about Circle A Summit, please go to circleacamp.com and register and find out everything about this incredible event. And if you've got any questions, you can email and they'll get back to you. So, all right, guys, I was super hyped about that. Melody, is there anything further about the Pioneer Circle that we could learn about as well?
Well, I will mention that Pioneer Circle members do get a discount off of their Circle A Summit registration. So if you are a member of the Pioneer Circle, don't forget that you do save $25 per person in your family or individually, if you're just an individual, to be able to come to the summit. So go ahead and get those registrations in. And we're super, super, super excited about the Pioneer Circle as well and everything going on there. So if you're on the fence about joining the Pioneer Circle, this would be a great time so that you can get your camp discount as well.
Awesome. That is, such a cool benefit, I think, because it really, it just makes it so much more valuable. If you're committed to going to the Circle A Summit, man, being in Pioneer Circle is just, it makes all the sense in the world. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, here we go, guys. The teaching that we've been waiting for from Skip, continuing that discussion about goal setting. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about setting checkpoints, keeping track, measuring what it is that we're doing, and keeping that goal alive. So here he is. Here's Skip.
Okay, letter H. Set checkpoints. Keep track. Measure it and keep it alive. Refuse to measure it and watch it slip away. Our friend Jim Dornan has said many things over the years that we have been associated with him, one of which is what gets measured gets done. Measure your progress. You'll be excited about your results if you measure your progress. It gives you a momentary check mark, but it also gives you a momentary encouragement that you're either on track or slightly behind or slightly ahead. You don't have that kind of a feel when there's little time left and so much yet to do. And the tendency of the human being is then to say, I'll just do it next month. I get a brand new fresh start next month or next week or next year or next 5 years or whatever the time frame is that we're working on, whatever the area of your life is that you're working on. We don't make that up for the most part. If you measure your progress, set yourself up to win by measuring his results in more than one way. For example, if you only measure the pounds you lose, there may be days when you don't see results. Measure anything that shows your results. I'll never forget Dr. Steve Zifferblatt. I said his name right tonight even. Susan and I went to Better Life Institute when he said, you better stop backburnering this. You're in serious trouble. So we went to Better Life Institute, and we were there for 7 days. We had a physical exercise session 3 times a day. Mama Pat Zivverblatt cooked all the meals. And then we had classes on how to cook, how to shop, all what happens in the body, why the body does what it does. And they said, keep track of every calorie that goes in your mouth. So they gave us a little book, and I wrote down everything I ate, and I calculated the calories. And I was for one whole week, I never went beyond 900 calories a day. I worked out 3 times a day. And when I finished the week, I got on the scale, and I had gained 1 pound. So I went to Dr. Steve Zifferblatt, and I said, Steve, I did not pay you $2,500 and 1 week of my life to learn how to gain weight. I've done that all my life. I know how to gain weight. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I've gained 1 pound. I've been on 900 calories a day. If I only had one way of measuring, I'd have been really discouraged. He said to me, did you measure your waist when you started and when we finished? I said, yes. He said, well, what was that? I said, I've lost 1 inch around the waist. He said, don't worry about the pounds right now. He said, the fatty tissue of your body is beginning to be more muscular, more lean, and that's heavy. It weighs more, and you're getting in better shape, and soon the weight will start dropping, and you'll see the scale show the result. In the meantime, you'll see the inches drop, and you'll see the better feel. All sorts of other ways to measure this thing. So in setting the checkpoints, have as many ways of checking your progress as you can so that you get encouragement along the way. You say, Skip, wow. I mean, the way you're explaining this, it seems like a complicated process, this goal setting. Maybe that's the reason why so few people ever really do it. And maybe that's the reason why there are so few that really accomplish great things. I think I have told most of you, if not all of you, the Harvard Business School study that was done many years ago, where they actually took a graduating class that had 100 students in it. These were top business students. They said, we will track these people for 25 years. And they had observed them while they were in school. They gave them tests while they were there and gave them tests when they left to find out, is there anybody in this class who is a real, active, knowledgeable goal setter? There were 3 out of those 100. And 25 years later, those 3 had accumulated more wealth, more of the accoutrements. Is that a good word? I love that word. More of the things that would suggest that they are successful. They had done more than the 97 combined. Does it make a difference if you're a goal setter? Apparently, it does. Is the process more detailed than what most people make it? If done properly, it is. But my question to me is it worth it? I have always answered yes. And sometimes I've had to have more serious talks with myself than other times. One would think, and this is just kind of a little discussion that comes up in a goal-setting seminar ever so often when I'm teaching it, because I think about this a lot. One would think that when you understand this process and you have used it and it has accomplished things in your life, that you would therefore always do it. And yet I find people who were really good goal setters at one point that aren't doing it at all. And I find myself vacillating. There's another good word. where I'm really on track with goal setting and all of these things that I'm talking about. And there are other times when I kind of back off from that. And I stop and I say to myself, Skip, why did you back off? What is it that keeps you from being really involved? And there are some things we'll talk about in the next couple of evenings that may be helpful to me. And if they are to me, maybe will be helpful to you as we kind of verbalize them and talk about them.
All right. Well, that was another great teaching from Skip. I really enjoyed this one because it was just so many of the things that I have learned from him over the years and seen him practice in his own life and do practice in my own life because he's right. He's right about it. So it's cool to hear, his thoughts firsthand about measuring your progress. So essentially, that's what this episode is about when we're talking about keeping it alive. One great way that we can keep it alive is to keep track and measure it so that we're not just procrastinating until the last minute and then deciding we're just going to start at the beginning of next week or next month or next year or whatever it might be. So, Dad reminds us that as we measure our progress, we will get excited about our results and we'll see progress in the midst of reaching our goal so that we're not just pushing towards the end with no celebrations along the way. And I think for me, the biggest reminder in this one was that measurement also prevents that tendency to procrastinate and just kind of put off the goal until another time. So he does remind us that measuring can happen in more than one way. So even if, he certainly uses the weight goal as the obvious one, which is the obvious one that came to my mind as well, because sometimes that could be a really frustrating thing to track, as anyone who's struggled with their weight knows. But he reminds us there are other ways to track physical health progress besides just a number on a scale. Maybe it's your waistline, maybe it's your blood pressure, maybe it's other health things that you are specifically focusing on. And so there are other ways to measure besides just the number on the scale. So he emphasizes the value of using various measurement methods as we are achieving our goals. And he brings in this interesting example of the Harvard Business School with this 25-year study, basically saying that the three in the group of 100 that they studied who were really committed to the process of goal setting accomplished more than the other 97 combined, which is pretty astounding, but not necessarily that surprising when you do truly understand the power of goal setting for long-term success. So really cool to hear about that study. And then he just reminds us that it is worth it, this work to track and measure and keep these goals alive. It is worth it, but it does require an intense commitment to the goal setting process. And I just love that he is vulnerable and honest and tells us that even he struggled with consistency in some of these areas, which I think just shows his integrity and his honesty and his just courage and tenacity to continue to grow, to continue to expand his consistency in these areas. And I think that so many who learned from him learned not only from these teachings that he gave, but just the way that he lived this out in his life every day. So it was a really, really awesome episode.
Absolutely. A couple of notes I put was I just love it when he brings up examples like his experience with Dr. Zifferblatt and the Better Life Institute. It's not a picture that I think he put out very publicly of his time there, but there is a picture that we have of him once he got back from that experience. And he's shown it to me. And I thought, oh, well, this must be when you were like 20 or something. Like you've lost a ton of weight. Like you're very thin. Your face is thin. You look very athletic. This can't be, it was sometime in the 90s. And his body transformed so much.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to hear his frustration during that process where he wasn't seeing the number go down.
Right.
And so he thought nothing was happening. But if he had seen that picture at the beginning of this experience, it would have been no question. He would have been excited about going through the process.
Yep.
And it's such an interesting example through his life to bring up. And then the other thing that I was wondering about this Harvard Business School study is, I find it's way easier to prove my accomplishments when I have like a very meticulous goal system behind it. So I wonder, not only could the 3 actually have done that much more than the other 97, but because they could prove it, it made that result all the more easy for them to show.
Right.
Which I just think is funny.
Yeah.
But the thing that I like the best about this talk that he gave is that opening point of set checkpoints, keep track, measure it, and keep it alive. And then that second sentence, refuse to measure it and watch it slip away. It's one of Dad's, where he says something for emphasis, but it sticks. And I think it's a really cool way of writing that point.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Well, I've got some questions about this stuff, though.
All right.
Are you ready for some questions?
I think so.
All right. Well, number 1 is revolving around some frustrations that I have felt, and I think come up with this discussion because we're talking about all these different steps and things that you have to go through to goal set. And so the question is, doesn't all this measuring, tracking, reviewing, writing, rewriting, and reciting on a daily basis just fill up that journey with too much busy work? Couldn't we just keep our nose to the grindstone and not look up until that goal is done, and then we can be happy when it's done? Like, do we have to do all of this process? That's the question.
I mean, I think that is a question Dad got a lot, which is why he has these statements in here like, refuse to measure it and watch it slip away. Because, like, honestly, yeah, it really does make a huge difference. I mean, I think you do have to find what works for you. I think that different people may gravitate towards different pieces of this in a more extreme way or in a less extreme way based on their season in life and their technological expertise and their, so there's so many different things. So I think you do have to find the way that works for you. I don't think you have to force yourself into a specific mold. And Dad doesn't really even prescribe a specific mold other than every morning and every night. But I do think that the daily awareness of not only of your goal, but of progress toward your goal is really, really important. Because if it's just a matter of the nose to the grindstone, then I think we can just burn out. I really think that we just get discouraged because we feel like things aren't moving in the way that we want them to move or at the speed that we want them to move or at all. And so I think that the more we measure and track and review and all of those things, the more we're reminded that progress is being made simply because we're taking these actions. Even if nothing changes in the measurements, if we're tracking our habits, if we're tracking our actions, then there is still something to celebrate. There's still progress being made. So I do think we can sometimes get a little bit stuck in the measuring, or like in the preparing to measure, and then maybe not do the actual work. So I do think we need to like be careful of that. If we get too stuck in the planning or the preparing and we're not actually making the steps towards the goal, then I think that's where it becomes a danger. But I think there's a lot of energy and momentum that builds when we're both taking the action steps and tracking and measuring them, that just kind of gets us in that zone. And that's the place that we want to be. I know I've mentioned John Acuff before, but he talks about that, the comfort zone and the chaos zone. And then in between them is the growth zone. And so if we want to get in that growth zone and stay in that growth zone, and I think the measuring and tracking helps us not be in the chaos zone or the comfort zone.
I love that response. I think it perfectly blends into question number 2. So just to keep this ball rolling, if we're doing this measuring process and we feel like it's only emphasizing how slow this progress is that we're making, and maybe we're not even making any real noticeable progress, what if that measurement just makes us feel more discouraged about the pursuit of the goal? What do we do then if we're just waylaid by bad measurement?
Yeah. I mean, that is a fair point too. Sometimes it could still feel discouraging, even if we are measuring everything. I think that where we really want to land, if we're going to be healthy about this, is I think we really want to land in the place where we value the person that we're becoming in the process of achieving these goals even more than we value the achievement itself, right? So, if we're only setting goals that are going to have meaning in our life when they're fully achieved, we might want to revisit the goal and make sure that's actually the goal that we want to be working towards. Because I think there can be something really good and beautiful and like fulfilling in the process of achieving a goal. And the accomplishment, of course, is something to celebrate and of course is the end goal. But there is something about the process that is just as beautiful. And there's something about the person that we become and the good that we do in the world in the process of it that's really, really important. And I mean, I just to be very transparent and honest, I can certainly relate to this with my own health journey and weight journey in this in this season of my life where I've turned 40 and it's just a little more challenging to keep the weight off, or actually not to keep it off, but to lose just the last few that I want to lose. It's just been a real challenge over the last couple of years. And, I went through a season of about 6 months where I tracked every single thing I ate and every single, workout that I did every single day for like 6 months. And, at the end of that time, I didn't have the number on the scale that I wanted. It was better than the number I started with, but it was still a couple of pounds off from the goal. And if that goal was like, if there was going to be no good done unless I reached that number, then I would be set up for like a lot of discouragement. But the truth is that I have 6 months of food logs that I can look at and see all the good choices that I made every single day, see all the workouts that I did every single day, and know that whatever that number is on the scale, the physical health of my body is significantly improved based on those choices that I made. Because if I hadn't been tracking, I would have probably had a few more cookies. I would have probably skipped a few more runs. I would have probably, whatever kind of choices that you make when you're not working towards a goal, like I probably wouldn't have made as good of choices. So even though there is a part of me that's discouraged, I did not get those last couple of pounds off. Genuinely, I still have to celebrate that effort, and tracking it can help me celebrate it more because I can see all those good choices I made along the way.
Awesome. I love it. I love the beauty of the process. I think that's the title of a new book by Melody Farrell. Leave a comment on our YouTube channel if you agree with me. But I love that response. I think that emphasizes Dad's point really well, and I think we need more of that discussion because I think it's really good. So, moving on to question number 3, then, in this process of finding what works for you, enjoying the process, how much actually needs to be measured? And I know that's kind of like laying out a specific and laying out a more formalized plan, but should I measure every possible marker of progress? What is the right amount of commitment that shows that, I am committed to this goal? Do I need to measure blood pressure and weight and waistline and everything that goes along with it? Or is it just whatever motivates me?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I hate to keep being like, every person is different and every goal is different, but every person is different and every goal is different. So I'm not sure there's an exact prescription. Some people respond really well to a program where you measure every measurement on your body every day. And some people respond awesome to that. And some people feel like that is really excessive and just stresses you out more. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. What I do think is that when we are making our plan, this is part of our plan. So we don't decide this halfway to the goal. We don't change this. As we make our goal and as we make our plan to achieve the goal, we decide at the beginning, what am I going to measure and how often am I going to measure it? And we can decide what those things are. I do think having very measurable data that's not just feeling or like, today I felt good and yesterday I felt tired. Like that's a little bit subjective, but actual data points, whether it's, a number in the bank or a number on the scale or whatever it is, I think those data points are really good. And so we pick 2 or 3 data points per goal that we're going to measure, and we decide how often we're going to measure it. Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? What is it? So I think that's important to decide at the outset. Personally, I think the most important thing to measure every day is less about the results and more about the habits. So what are the habits that it is going to take to achieve our goal? And if we're doing those habits every day, eventually we're going to achieve the goal. So that's something that I have gotten very committed to tracking in my life, because that's something that I can control. I can't always control outcomes. I can't always control timing, but I can control the choices I make every day to do the healthy habits that I need to do to accomplish my goals. So if you're only going to track one thing, I would recommend tracking your habits.
Awesome. I'm not someone that I feel any sense of authority to lead a discussion on weightlifting, but I can definitely say that in weightlifting, when I'm measuring just the weight that I'm lifting, if that doesn't change, that can be really debilitating and like depressing. But if I'm not just measuring how much I'm lifting, but maybe the amount of sets, the amount of reps, or the amount of time, or maybe the different muscle groups, if I'm hitting different things and I'm seeing just that incremental increase in some aspect, it's so much more motivating than just that one number that I'm focusing on. And as someone who, I guess, I don't want to verbalize the wrong thing, but I have had a history of hurting myself when it comes to physically, pushing my body. It's good that I'm not focusing on that one number, because in focusing on that one number, it can lead to a lot of damage to the body if that's the only thing you're trying to increase. If you're not increasing, a well-rounded growth of your body as well, and, the full aspects of your muscles, you can get hurt. So yeah, I think it applies in so many other aspects of life and goal setting too. But I love your responses. Thank you for giving them to us today. I think you've added so much context and clarity again, as always, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, Melody.
Awesome. Thank you too. Good questions. This was a good episode filled with lots to think about.
All right. And thank you guys. Thank you for joining us on this journey with the Reflections Cast. And remember that your support means everything. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button, write us a review, or leave us a voicemail. You can do that through our Spotify page. And please share this episode with friends, family, or anyone you think might benefit from our discussion. We believe in you. We're committed to helping you thrive on your journey of discovering all you were created to be. And until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and pass it on.